In this lesson, we're going to learn how to factor using a method of factoring known as perfect squares. So what do we need when we're factoring perfect squares? Well, we need an expression that is a trinomial, and we need the first and the third terms to have the same sign. But let's go ahead and factor. So our step one is to take the square root of the first and the third term. So let's do our first term. What is the square root of x squared? Square root of x squared is x. And then here we have square root of y squared. The square root of y squared is y. And then we can just write it in a form here, x and y with our square roots. And then we just include whatever sign is in our middle term. So here we have a negative, we would do negative y. And that's our solution. Let's go ahead and check it just to make sure it actually worked. So if you have x minus y squared, I'll just write that as x minus y times x minus y. We can do x times x is x squared. Then we can do x times negative y, which gives us negative xy. And then we can do negative y times x, which gives us another negative xy. And then we can do negative y times negative y, which gives us a positive y squared. Let's combine like terms. X squared minus 2xy plus y squared. And that gave us the original expression, so we know that our factoring worked. But let's go ahead and do some more examples. Here's another example. Let's do step one. Take the square root of our first and third term. What's the square root of 16a squared? So square root of 16 is just 4. Square root of a squared is a. And then over here, we can take the square root of b squared is b. So now we just write that in factored form. Write first and third term squared. And then we just take the sign from the second term, which is plus. And that's the solution for this example. If you want to multiply it out to check it, you're welcome to. But this is our solution. Here's another example we can factor using perfect squares. So let's do step one. Let's take the square root of the first and third term. So what is the square root of 1 over 9? That is 1 over 3. Right, because if we square 1 over 3, that gives us 1 over 3 times 3, which gives us 1 over 9. Anyway, square root of x to the power of 4 is x squared. Then let's do our third term. We have 2y squared, right, because the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of y to the power of 4 is y squared. Let's go ahead and write this in factored form. So we have 1 over 3 x squared, and we have 2y squared. And then we're just going to include the sign of the second term, which is minus. And that's our solution. This one, I'll go ahead and multiply it out just to prove to you that it is actually factored. Oops, I almost forgot to square. Don't forget to square. But let's multiply it out just to see. So we have 1 over 3 x squared minus 2y squared times 1 over 3 x squared minus 2y squared. 1 over 3 x squared times 1 over 3x squared gives us 1 over 9 x to the power of 4. And then we have our minus 2 times 1/3 x squared y squared. If you can't do it all in your head, feel free to just write it out as this, and you can simplify it later. There's nothing wrong with that. And then we have our 1 over 3x squared times negative 2y gives us negative 2 times 1 over 3 x squared y squared. And then we have our negative 2y squared times negative 2y squared, which gives us a plus 4y to the power of 4. Now, let's simplify and combine like terms. We have 1 over 9, x to the power of 4, minus 2/3, right? Minus 2/3 x squared, y squared. Then we have another one here, minus 2/3 x squared, y squared. And then we have our plus 4y to the power of 4. Now we can combine like terms. We have 1 over 9, excuse me, I'm getting in the way, x to the power of 4. Then we have, what is 2/3 plus 2/3, or minus 2/3? Minus 2/3 gives us minus 4 over 3, which gives us minus 1 1/3. Then we have our last term here, which is plus 4y to the power of 4. And that is our original expression. So our factoring worked, and this here is our solution. So this example, we can also factor using perfect squares. Let's go ahead and take the square root of the first and third term. Square root of anything squared is just anything, right? So a plus b squared, if you take the square root of that, it'll get rid of the square. So a plus b is our square root, and x to the power of 4, the square root of that is x to the power of 2. Now we can write it in our factored form. So let's go ahead and use a bracket, a plus b. And then we have our square root of our third term here, which is just x squared. And we're going to take the sign from our second term, which is a negative, and then square it all, and that is our solution. If you're unfamiliar with the bracket, we use that. It's the same as a parentheses, except whenever you already have a parentheses in the problem, you use a bracket just so that you don't get confused, and you can tell where the other parenthesis is. So like the close of this parenthesis is here, and the close of the bracket is over here. And that is why we use brackets. But anyway, this is the solution for factoring this expression.
Hey guys, if this video has been helpful to you, click the link in the description to get access to the complete Easy STEM Algebra 1 system, which includes a textbook, homework, and all of the course videos in order.